Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football's Sooner Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, particularly Oklahoma Sooner football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. Guys, just first wanted to apologize to everybody for missing our normal Tuesday night live stream that we have done every Tuesday for about a year and a half now. I had probably the worst headache in the history of my life. I just couldn't even get out of bed. So, going to go through some of that stuff that we were going to talk about on Tuesday night here this morning. We also have our No Cap SEC show tonight. So be sure to join us right here on Hall of Fame College Football and the Sooner Magic podcast pages for all of that stuff. We will be talking a little bit about some of the recruiting stuff we're hearing, transfer portal, some of that other stuff. Going to bust chops on Texas like we always do. But one of the other things that I wanted to really kind of talk about, and I actually have a really special guest here to talk about it, is the continued OU staggering amounts of slander headed in the direction of Brent Venables in Oklahoma, the latest of which comes via On3 and their coaches rankings, which among others has coaches such as Eli Drinkwitz. Let me go through the list here. Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning, who hasn't done much, Kirk Ferentz, Jeff Brom, Jonathan Smith, Dave Doran. I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons that this is crazy, but I have a hard time understanding some of it. You know, some of these guys, what have they done? And I don't know whatever their criteria is for coming up with this, and it's all subjective, and you can say what you want. But in the last, well, really the last few months, but particularly over the last few days and weeks, I've seen show after show after show where, you know, asking, why does Oklahoma feel disrespected? Because you're disrespecting them. You're disrespecting a coach that's you're disrespecting the coach that's been one of the most respected defensive minds in the country, has worked with two of the most successful coaches in the country as an assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, has put top-level defenses out that beat Alabama twice in the national championship game. They've beaten Georgia. Good grief. I don't know what else you could possibly do. He won a national championship as a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma in his first stint. It's unbelievable. And Zach Reynolds, you were absolutely right. Trying to force mediocrity on OU with that schedule back-to-back years, that's another thing that's with it too. There's no respect there from the SEC even. That's fine. I think as Oklahoma fans, we love that kind of stuff. Prove it, that kind of stuff. But this is another level of it, though. When you start putting guys like Eli Drinkwitz ahead of Coach Venables, I mean, Jonathan Smith, I don't mind some of these coaches that they're considered very good coaches in the country. I think they are good coaches. But none of these guys were offered the Oklahoma job that I'm talking about. You think they were going to offer that job to Eli Drinkwitz? Hell no. Hell no. There's no way. Lincoln Riley has since fallen on, he's way up the list. He's fallen on his face because he doesn't have the power of Oklahoma behind him anymore. And here we are. But I wanted to bring on a special guest today, somebody who knows a little bit about and can enlighten us a little bit about why you would choose Oklahoma over some of these other coaches, some of them that are way up there on the list that Coach Venables isn't on. Welcome into the show, Mike Boganowski Sr. His son, Michael Boganowski, of course, is a freshman with the Sooners, had a big day in the spring game the other day. Welcome into the show, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to have you, man. Good to have you. Welcome in, everybody.
Yes,
Glad to see everybody in here. Season's starting to fill up in here. I knew as soon as your name popped up, they were going to start. They're going to jump in.
I don't think it has nothing to do with me. Probably everything that maybe my son.
You Boganowskis have been quite popular lately. The last and I exciting stuff, exciting times around there. I guess it's got to be really exciting for you. I haven't seen what you saw, and I mean, everybody's talking about the big hits that Mike was putting on out there. Really, this secondary class, not all of it, which is even in the building right yet, because of not everybody was an early enrollee. But it's a lot of everything that you're seeing as an Oklahoma fan is just, I mean, you start thinking back to what it was like with Lincoln here. Yeah, the offense was going to put up big numbers, but when it got down to playoff time, you were probably going to take it on the chin. They had the 1 year right after Bob Stoops left where the defense was still serviceable, or at least big enough to compete, with the SEC. Now you're seeing a team being put together that can do it. Heavy hitting, the strength coach is back, with Schmitty being back in the building. All is well in Soonerland, but yet not much respect going around. Tell me why you and your son and your family decided. I know there's a lot of reasons, I would imagine, but what stood out for you when it came to wanting your son to play for this program, this coach?
Yeah. At the end of the day, a lot of people talk about NIL and things like that. Like, I mean, you can't ignore NIL because it's in the landscape, but that was never at the forefront of our mind and the most important thing in recruiting. Like, barely talked about it. I didn't bring it up. My son didn't bring it up. But, when we went on this recruiting journey, it was all about finding the best fit, what, the college has to offer for his major, and he wanted to do business. So Oklahoma checked that box. And then it's just so overall feeling you get with the coaches and where, you think's best suited for your son to succeed. And at the end of the day, it was Oklahoma. And right. I had a feeling it was Oklahoma, in the beginning of last summer. So, right. I mean, I kind of knew he never really told me. He never told me. But right. Just being dad, I
yeah, you could kind of feel it, where I caught your interview there on Sooner Legends podcast, and shout out to Mike the Legend, great show that you guys had on there the other day. Oh, looks like you're frozen up. Are you still with me? Oh, we lost him there. Maybe it'll pop right back in.
Is this me?
No, you froze up there.
Yeah, we're having some storms in Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on your computer or your phone?
Bad weather up here.
Okay.
My phone. Okay. I went off. I took it off Wi-Fi to see how that goes.
Okay. Yeah, it's still freezing a little bit, but we'll get there. All right. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you catch hints, and as a father, I had a son that was, an athlete in high school as well. You can obviously tell kind of what's going on in their head and stuff. What do you think what was it for you that, I mean, I know that this is a decision you let him make, and that was, I caught your interview, as I said, on Sooner Legends podcast the other day. Great interview. And I just thought you talked about how it was really his decision and all that, but was Oklahoma what you preferred as well? Was Oklahoma and Coach Venables and this defensive staff was that at least near the top of your list anyway?
Yeah, it was at the top. At the beginning, I don't know. I say at the beginning, I probably preferred K-State, full transparency. there's an aspect of it being near home. I had a couple coaches that were on my staff when I played that recruited me to New Mexico State. So there was a familiarity aspect to Kansas State. And,
Yeah.
there's a trust there that you can't, you just can't pass up that trust, because that trust all the way back in 97, those bonds and that relationship that was built. So there's a comfort aspect to it.
Well, and don't you live a few miles away from Kansas State anyway?
As it went along. Yeah, it's right down the street. Yeah, it's right down the street.
I get it. Yeah, you probably want to, keep everybody happy in the state of Kansas too. I get that. Yeah, there's some reasons. I get that. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I don't think keeping everybody in the state of Kansas happy, I don't know if that's possible, but that wasn't it. I didn't think about that, and I hope he didn't think about it, because I stressed to choice. You got to do what's best for you. Don't worry about the outcomes. You want to go to get the best chance to be developed and successful.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. But I mean, obviously, whenever you're looking at, this is a blue blood program and stuff like that on top of that. But I know as you talked about on Mike's show the other day, that how important it was for you, when you started hearing about things like the soul mission and just the way that the relationship gets built. It feels like coaches like Brandon Hall, Jay Valai, and Venables himself, they're calling all the time. I talked to Nigel. We had Nigel Smith on the show last year, and he talked about how he talked to Coach Venables almost every day, leading up to his commitment. It seemed like he was a commit the whole way, but he didn't really commit until right towards the end of the whole deal. So it was one of those deals where you felt like you were going to get him, but not. But he was just talking about how much he loved Coach Bates, and then just the way that the entire thing was. I just feel like part of it, when you look at the best coaches in the country, and I don't want to get off a track here, but and where this program is headed, whether the offensive line, I mean, I saw what was said in there from Micah. Yeah, there's disrespect coming out of that area, and trying to force that mediocrity, like Zach said. But the truth is, I believe that everybody should know that Oklahoma is not just some fly-by-night program that's coming into the SEC. It's not Missouri, okay? It's not Missouri. We all know that, and Missouri had success in their first years, in the program. In the league. They haven't been great up until this last year. They had pretty easy schedule. The best games they had on the schedule, they lost. They lost them though. But in the end, what did it mean to you though? And being a defensive guy now, and New Mexico State guy, that's where I got my bachelor's degree. So, shout out to the Aggies. LOs for Lobos. But being a defensive guy yourself, how much did you love it that he was going to a program with Brandon Hall, Brent Venables, and this defensive powerhouse of a staff, and the fact that they were recruiting him for that matter? What did that mean to you?
It was flattering, it was flattering that a coach of the magnitude of Brent Venables, that they wanted my son, and it's like, he's coached some big name guys, and it was just flattering, because as a dad, you always think your son, you always have that dad, and you're like, oh, my son's good, but it was just validation, because I had seen it, but I didn't know if it was just me being a dad, but when you see other coaches like, yeah, your son's got it, it feels good.
Right. Well, and I saw actually, I didn't see this list, and we should go ahead and just share this list real quick. Before let me do that. Oops. Let me share this list. But real quick, let me get to the super chat.
List, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. What Mr. B said about right fit is exactly what we need at OU and what success is all about in creating the right culture. And I think that that has a lot to do with it as well as culture. Thank you for that super chat, Stink. And then Nelio said you should have stuck with that first thought, Dad. Damn it. Nelio is our guy from KC Mo. He is a K-State guy. His family, a lot of them went to Oklahoma, so a lot of that's kind of joking around. But he's definitely.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I can understand why he. I think a lot of people, especially after this past weekend, are understanding exactly why. Or I can understand why they would be not so happy about it. But look at this list. Obviously, I have no problem with Kirby Smart. He's won 2 natties. 2 out of the last 3. They've lost 1 game in their last 30. Kalen DeBoer taking a less talented Washington to the national championship game. Fine where he's at. Fine with Brian Kelly, really, for that matter. He's done a lot of things with less, and now he's at LSU. So I get it. Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian's my first. What the hell is this about? The guy first won 10 games last year in his 10th season. Coach Venables won 10 games in his second year as a head coach after taking over a program that Lincoln Riley tried to set fire to on his way out. It just is what it is. Yeah, we're not dealing with you today, bud. Not at all. All right. Let's see. So, I mean, that's the whole thing. Sark is in and of himself. Look, I think he's a great offensive mind. I think that he's done very little with what he's had. And even his first year in Texas, they weren't in the same situation. Now I think they had a culture issue, and he's probably helped with that a bit. I think that he has. And I know he recruits pretty well, but my question is, at what point does he have to there's games that you should have won. He couldn't even beat Oklahoma last year. And he had probably the best team we've seen at Texas in 20 years. They don't beat OU. They lose for the second straight year to Kalen DeBoer and Washington in the playoff in a game that, Washington's defense was not very good. And they got some talented guys coming in the portal. My question is, are they more talented than the guys you just watched walk out that are all slated to be first to third rounders at worst? I don't see it. I have a hard time believing it. So we'll kind of, it is what it is. I don't know, man. Anyway, I don't have a problem with him necessarily being on the list. I think number 5 is a little silly. Dabo should probably be a little higher up, although I feel like he doesn't really play the NIL game and he hates the portal. So I'm not sure that I understand that. There are obviously going off of his national championships. One could argue he would have never won them without Brent Venables and this coaching staff that's at Oklahoma. Kyle Whittingham, I think he should be further up this list. I think Kyle does more with less than anybody in the country. He's an amazing coach. Lincoln, I think it's insane that he's still up this high after the way that he had the Heisman Trophy winner and they loaded up in the portal and they went 7-5. They were a 2-point conversion away from starting 6-0 and going 0-6 to finish. So, yeah, I don't buy it. Let's see. Oops. What did I just do? Okay. Lane Kiffin. The next time he wins a big game will be the first time. But he's number 10. I like Lane, but, it'll be the first time. Dan Lanning, next time he wins a big game, it'll be the first time. Unless you call Colorado a big game. Lance Leipold, I think he should be further up the list. The guy has done nothing but win since he got to Kansas, and Kansas is probably one of the toughest places in the country to win. So I think that's a little out there. Let's see. Let me see if I can fix this a little bit. Ooh, there we go. Then you've got James Franklin. Again, the guy can't beat Ohio State and Michigan. He seems to do pretty well against everybody else. He belongs somewhere on this list. Then we get to number 14, Mike Gundy. The next time he wins a big game, that you don't have the Big 12 officials in your pocket. It'll be the first time. If it's a conference championship game, you can count on mediocre Mike Gundy gagging it up. Guaranteed. It happens like clockwork. I won't make you get into that. But Jamie Chadwell, man, come on.
Yeah.
Liberty. Look, great. This is where we start getting into these guys that I think would have zero chance of getting the job. And there's already been some. Dan Lanning was in the running for the job with Coach Venables. They chose Coach Venables. He wanted the OU job instead. He didn't get it. And now he's that high up the list. And he hasn't done anything. He's lost games that he didn't get to the conference championship. He's yet to beat is it Utah? No, he beat Utah, but he hasn't beaten Washington yet in 3 tries. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Then so Jamie Chadwell, I mean, it's Liberty. They beat New Mexico State. I get it. New Mexico State was good. And I like Coach Kill a lot. I think New Mexico State's in trouble with Coach Kill gone. And I actually like Coach Sanchez. Yeah, and I like Coach Sanchez. I remember I've been living I don't live in Vegas now, but I did for a long time. He took over the UNLV job. That was a tough job to win at. He didn't last. But he did a heck of a job at Bishop Gorman. I think he's a good coach. He's obviously an alumni. It matters to him there. He played there as well. He played during that same time as you did, didn't he?
He left. He had graduated my first year.
Okay. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah. All right, cool. Then, Chris Kleiman, again, no problem with him on the list. Heupel, no problem with him on the list. He's won games. He's turned around a Tennessee program that had, beat Alabama for the first time in 15 years. Fickle, fine. College football playoff. We'll see what he does at Wisconsin. But, Kirk Ferentz, I have a hard time with that one. I mean, they've been playing in the Big Ten West, which is a shit show, if you don't mind my saying. And they don't have an offense.
Nope.
Come on, man. Jeff Brom. Look, I like Jeff Brom overall, but he hasn't really done much either. His last year they won 10 and then lost to USC. But to be honest with you, most of his other seasons have been 5, 6, 7 wins, somewhere in the area of like Eli Drinkwitz. And aside from this time at Western Kentucky, he did a great job there. But like Purdue, they had the 1 year that they went to the conference championship game. They got rolled, of course. I think he's won 10 or 11 games since he left Western Kentucky twice. And everything else was 5, 6, 7 wins, somewhere in that range. Look, yeah, come on. I think he's a decent coach, but I wouldn't put him above Coach Venables. Matt Rule, I like Matt Rule. He should be higher up. Jonathan Smith, what has he done? I mean, yeah, they were decent in the Pac-12, but everybody's decent in the Pac-12, and they still didn't win it. Yeah, I don't know. Dave Doran, come on, man. I don't even want to say it. And then Eli Drinkwitz. Smoke and mirrors, joke. It's a joke. To me, none of those guys that I just brought up really would have had a shot. Jeff Traylor, I like Jeff Traylor a lot. He wouldn't have got the OU job. Drink wouldn't have got the OU job. Jonathan Smith wouldn't have got the OU job. Ferentz would never get it. Chadwell would have never got it. We know Gundy would have never got it. I know he thinks that he would have. He wouldn't have. They could have hired Lane Kiffin at any point, and they didn't. It's just not. That's not who they wanted.
Yeah.
Mike Norvell, I like Mike Norvell. Whittingham, Coach Witt, was one of the guys that was on my personal list of possible replacements because of what he's done. But in the end, I think it's crazy. Tell me what your thoughts were when you saw this list of the top 25 per Jesse Simonton at On3.
Well, my first thought is they're trolling. It's some kind of clickbaity type thing, and they got me. I retweeted it. I had to say it. They caught me. But the more I look at it, the more I have to ask myself, what's the criteria? Is it just as a head coach?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just last year's? Is it your whole coaching career? You know, like it, and I would need to know that before I like think. But I mean, if you're just looking, and I think the easiest way is to say last year, right? What you did last year. And
Yeah.
if you hold out Coach Venables on this based off just last year, there's something going on with On3 in Oklahoma. You know,
And it's not even there though. I watched, well, that SEC podcast is a popular show right now. They have continually drug and trolled Oklahoma, and more so than Texas. And I mean, the thing is that I get it that Texas made their little run to the CFP and immediately gagged it away. And
that was debatable though. Whether they got in was debatable in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, all the Florida State folks were bitching and complaining about Alabama, but I mean, Texas, yeah, they won the Big 12. Good for them. And they did it because Oklahoma had some injuries late in the year and struggled defensively. And look, we can talk about Kansas a lot. We could talk about Bedlam, but you don't want to hear what I got to say about Bedlam because it was nothing but bullshit officiating. And that, along with some
we all saw it.
We all saw it. And I think that, you can say whatever you want. And you, as a fan or, on somebody of the program, we know that you shouldn't have allowed it to get to that point. I think that that's clear. And there was certainly some things that didn't need to be happened, but the officiating was definitely one-sided. It was clearly going on with Texas as well, a lot down the stretch. They were complaining about the same things. The year before that, there was hard evidence. I hadn't looked that deep into it because I didn't need to for this past season, but hard evidence of the fact that, nobody was getting holding calls against Oklahoma and Texas the year before that. I would tell you that the Texas Tech game on television, it looked like they made that field goal in overtime. But there was no replay up the goalpost. There's a lot of little things that happened in the Big 12 the last 2 years that they were there, and I understand what they were doing. He was trying, they're trying to pump up their conference and to hell with having those two programs on their way out meet in their championship game. They were able to keep one of them out. The other one won because, again, Mike Gundy can't win a conference championship game. The one conference title he has, they didn't have a conference championship game or he'd have lost it too. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if I look at this list, even without Venables, like there's just other people on there. Like how? Explain to me how.
Yeah. Talk to me. Go ahead. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand it myself, but which ones were you like, which ones are the most egregious for you? I got a question for you real quick from Neelio right after that though, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first thought was like Brian Kelly at number 2. Like if you're going to put somebody up there, that high, I just don't think the resume fits number 2. Okay. Coach DeBoer, I actually don't have a problem with him in number 3. I think he's an amazing coach. I think he's won everywhere he's went. And then, I think Dabo is probably a little low, but again, what's the criteria? I think Norvell is probably right where he should be. But ones that stuck out to me is Coach Chadwell, and I could see Rule being on there. That I didn't have a problem with that, but that's just if you're gonna have some of these dudes on here, BV got to be on there.
Yeah, Dave Doran, Jonathan Smith. I mean,
he got to be on there, man. Come on.
Dan Lanning, as high up as he is, I think he's good at selling himself, but he's been selling a bill of goods so far. He's got everybody believing that they offered him the job at Alabama. I don't buy it. I think that they got their guy. I think that they all have a very good agent and they got him a raise and he used that as an opportunity to say I'm loyal to Oregon when nobody else is. So
it's the playbook.
Yeah, of course it was. And hey, listen, I don't even blame him. It is what it is. But hey, Neilio, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. He says, nice to have Mr. Boganowski on this morning, and I hope he finds everything he's looking for in Norman. Damn it. Just kidding. Good morning, Jason. But then he asked a question on the regular chat as well. Let me get to it. I was there. He said, what are your thoughts on his college position coach and current K-State linebackers coach, Steve Stenard? Does he think he could go higher up to a potential head coaching gig?
I've always asked him, like, what's up, man? He's had some D coordinator jobs before. He's never really told me yes or no, or if he has aspirations. He's got a son that just graduated high school, is the same class as my son. Kind of crazy that they were rivals. He went to Manhattan, my son was at JC. I think I can't speak for him, but I think there's some stability in Manhattan that he likes, and he's got another high school age child. So coaches, they move a lot. They've taken a lot of coaching. The family gets bumped and all over the place. So I think there's some stability there, and I think he's comfortable and likes where he's at K-State.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's see. Let me get back into some of this. Let's see. When OU goes out and smokes an SEC pack this year, they will have BV running for Coach of the Year. Absolutely. Well, they have the number 2 strength of schedule in the country, behind only Florida. And I think Florida probably has the toughest schedule in college football history. If you look at it, it's insane from top to bottom. If you expect Miami to be decent, good again, you have to expect year 2 UCF in the Big 12. They got a pretty good quarterback coming in. I like Gus Malzahn in that situation. I'm not the biggest Gus Malzahn fan in the world, but I mean, he's won big games in certain places. They got them, and then they've got the SEC slate to, that's really the only one that's harder than Oklahoma's. And, period. OU with road games at Missouri, which I believe they're a fluke 11-2 from last year. They don't have the same team that they had last year. I love Luther Burden. I like Theo Weiss. I think Cook's a decent quarterback. I don't think he's great, but I think that they lost a lot off of that defense, including their staff that had, which was probably what led that football team in certain places. Now, they weren't able to beat LSU before they lost their top assistants on defense to them. So I tend to wonder. I mean, to me, I think that they've got landmines, even though their schedule is pretty much the same as it was last year, pretty light. But they've got some landmines in places that I think that they're definitely going to fall back to earth. I would be shocked if they won 10 games again. I would be shocked. It's because it's Mizzou. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Ole Miss again. Yeah. I think Ole Miss is playing the portal game as well as anybody. But look, the one thing we know is you do need to play in the portal and get some guys to fill out. I think that's going to be the difference between Oklahoma competing for a spot in the SEC title game this year and not, is depth. Obviously, the offensive line. Again, it was set up there earlier that, look, they got the best offensive line coach in the country. You don't have a bad offensive line. You have a new offensive line. Don't mistake one for the other, because I feel like that's when you have Bill Bedenbaugh as all you got to do is look at the list of guys in the National Football League that were first and second rounders alone. There's like 11 of them. They're still playing today. I have a hard time believing that, and they're all pro guys, man. We're talking about guys that are, Creed Humphrey, obviously, then you've got Lane Johnson there for the Eagles. I mean, we're talking just the best of the best in the league right now. Obviously, Trent didn't get coached by Beatonbow, and he's probably the best left tackle in NFL history. But again, offensive line, I feel like they're going to figure it out well enough, and there's enough talent on that offense, and this defense is going to lead the way. I believe that. Look, when you've got freshmen like your son and Reggie Powers, and you've got a group of kids. I mean, we haven't even seen Newcomb yet, Bobby Newcomb's son. That kid hits like a ton of bricks too. If you watch this film, he's a baller. There's guys from, and then they've got guys coming next year, and I mean, it's constant. This is what they've built, and they've probably built. Well, I think that their defensive line is certainly the best in OU history, unless it's maybe you talk about the Selman brothers all the way back in the 70s. But certainly in modern history, this is the best defensive line class as a whole we've ever seen. Nigel Smith, Danny Okoye, Jaden Jackson, David Stone. These guys are freaking hogs. They're going to push for playing time right now. I feel like,
and there's a guy on Twitter. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, there's a guy on Twitter that asked me, he's like, name one thing BV has done better than these coaches on the list. And first thing I was like, well, first thing to come to mind is recruiting.
Yeah. Guys, and this is underrated recruiting, by the way, too. Jaden Jackson was in the 300s in his rankings. He's a 4-star. He's a blue chipper. He was in the 300s until right towards the end after he had committed and everything. And I mean, between him and Stoney at IMG, they were unstoppable. If you double team one, the other one ate you alive. If you double team the other one ate you alive. It was constant. And this is a team that played. Yeah, the IMG is a program that plays a national schedule every year against the best football factories in the country and wins. We're not, and that's what they are as a football factory. I mean, they're there to become NFL players. You've got a bunch of guys like that. Phil Pachotti's another guy that comes from their linebacker. And we hadn't heard, he had an injury. We're still waiting to see what he's going to be. But I mean, the guys that Lewis Carter, underrated guy. Samuel Omosigo, a little under. Well, he's a top 100 guy. So, I mean, you still got to think about that. They've, PJ Adebawari was a 3-star whenever he committed to Oklahoma. He shoots up all the way to number 4 in the country, by the time that the cycle was over last year. But Nigel Smith, look, I always tell people, don't look at the stars, look at the offers. I was saying that about Michael the other day. When you've got offers from Michigan and other SEC schools, I mean, weren't Tennessee involved as well? I mean, you guys pretty much could have went anywhere you wanted to go, right?
I would think so.
Yeah. So, I look at Nigel Smith, for instance. If he goes to Ohio State with Larry Johnson, he's a 5-star. There's no two ways around it. He's a 5-star. The guy's coached 16 first-team All-Americans, and like 10 of those guys were top 5 picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because because he's at Oklahoma and whatever the stigma is there, and they don't see these kids if they don't go to camps all the time, and he didn't. So he would have been a 5-star as well. If you look at his measurables, now Stoney's put on a little more weight than he has since he got to OU, but he also moves in and out. He's not just going to be that 3 technique guy. He may play out on the edge as well some before his time's up here, I think. I think that's part of the plan. But I think that he's absolutely, Danny Okoye is another example of a guy that should have been a 5-star. Nick Saban loved him. First time he ever saw him, he was MVP of his camp, and he wanted him immediately. I look at the guys that are the teams
super
that
freak,
are,
man. He's a super freak.
Unbelievable, right? Explosive.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they still, as to your point, 8-5-8 in recruiting rankings overall in the last 3 years. I think that Devon Mitchell, he was a top 15 guy for the 26 or the 25 class. He reclassifies. Don't tell me that guy, there's 11 guys in the country better than him. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at tight end. I don't think so. And, again, he still was a 5-star in that other class. So you got to look at that as, okay, he dropped to a 4-star or whatever for this class, but he's still a 5-star talent. Peyton Bowen. Let's not forget about Peyton Bowen. Let's not forget about some of these other guys that were already here. They're killing it here. They've got more blue chip top 100 D-line prospects in the last 2 years than Oklahoma had in the last 20. And yet that's got to be a huge part of this, right? Got to be a huge part of coaching. I mean, if you don't have the guys, it doesn't matter what your coaching acumen is.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
yep.
Anyway,
you gotta have players, man. You gotta have players. You gotta have dudes. And if you don't have dudes, you're probably not going to be the head coach for a long time because they're going to get you out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, Neilio, the one thing about Mizzou is okay, they got their collective rolling. They still, the highest they've been able to get to is like number 20 in the country. They've got that money, but what's it equating to? And when you've got Drinkwitz, I mean, come on, man. He's a goof. He beat Tennessee. That was his big win last year. And then the K-State win. And it took a 60-yarder at the buzzer by the thicker kicker to get that one done. I don't buy him.
Oh, he tried his hardest to give the game away. He was not tuned in on those last couple minutes, man. The clock ran for a long time before he realized it. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think that was probably Chris Kleinman's one of his worst coach games that I've seen from him, as far as the way that they dealt with things down the stretch. And really, Howard wasn't good in that game either, down the stretch for sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. Had some injuries on the defense side. The middle linebacker, he got hurt in the first half and, was essentially playing with one arm the second half. It was actually pretty amazing. He was still playing.
They had a lot of breaks go their way. I mean, they played mostly a third string lineup from Ohio State and were losing in the fourth quarter 3-0 in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, good for you that you came back and got a couple of TDs late and beat a one-legged Ohio State team that didn't give a shit. Good for you.
Yeah.
But stop acting like you just won the Natty, bro. You hadn't even won a conference title yet. I mean, good grief. But that's what I'm saying. You've got people that are literally picking them to make the college football playoff. When it comes to Texas, look, yes, they're talented. They are very talented. I think that the losses that they had on the defensive side, I mean, if you watch the Texas spring game, I know a couple of those guys from their secondary weren't there. They're going to really need them because they weren't good last year in the secondary. They were ranked in the 100s on, pass defense. Passing yards against, I think they were 94th, but they were like 120 something in total pass defense or whatever. They're awful. It's just bad.
Yeah.
So, and that was probably the biggest problem for them. But I mean, come on. You didn't get better there. You got worse. I know that they added some guys in the portal that they like. Colin Simmons looks like he's going to be an absolute stud on the edge, but he's a freshman too. One of the guys they thought they were going to get to shore up that UCLA from UCLA decided to go back to UCLA instead of coming to Texas, which is odd to me. But it tells you that the loss of Bo Davis is huge. Huge. PK's in trouble there. I think that the defensive coordinator is in deep shit there. And Quinn Ewers wasn't that great when he had Worthy and A.D. Mitchell and Jatavion Sanders. Don't tell me that these other guys I'm sure they're really good, that they're going to be able to replicate what you got out of those guys, and that you can trust that Quinn, number one, will be healthy, and number two, will be able to, I guess, mesh with them right away. I don't know, man. I mean, he threw a pick six to a D lineman the other day, so it looked good to me, but maybe we'll see Arch Manning soon. No, I just I'm
He
glad.
he better play well. You know, it's
I think they're already calling for Arch, right? They're already calling for Arch.
yeah, yeah,
I love it. This
yeah.
is fun for me. I'm enjoying this a lot already. Yeah. Uh-huh. So Texas is 38-21 against the SEC. Okay. I think that A&M is probably in better shape, particularly on defense. And if Connor Weigman looks like he looked before he got hurt, they could do a lot of things at A&M. But Elko's a much better coach than
Yeah.
at the whole program than what Jimbo was. And they're going to play good football. I'm not a big believer in Aggie, but I think I like Mike Elko. If you can go do that at Duke, and that D line is still very, very good. They lost a couple of guys off of it, but they've got a lot of talent there. They brought in some good secondary talent, which is where they needed it. Their offensive line is a little untested, but I think that they could be good. I don't know, man. I think that they also have. Bobby says Quinn's a first-round pick. No, he's not. If he was a first-round pick, and if for sure a first-round pick, why is he not already gone? I mean, I get it. It was a deep quarterback draft, but had he won the game against Washington, whether he won the Natty or not, maybe he would have been able to go in this draft. But I think that there's clear questions about what Quinn really is. And I think that goes all the way to his head coach. I don't think that Sark trusts him either. I don't think Sark trusts him in some of those things. What did Stink say that you're agreeing with there? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, the good coach. Yeah. Elko might struggle this year. He's got to erase Jimbo's culture. Yeah, I think so. But I think that they got rid of most of the guys that they needed to. I mean, I don't think that. Look, man, I'm never going to hang my hat on Aggie doing much, but I do pull. Yeah, I'm not doing that, man. But I think that they
I'm interested in see how Colin Klein does.
Colin Klein, Colin, he's an up and comer, right? His offenses, he's done really well. I think that maybe end up being tough on K-State losing him, right? I think it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, maybe not, but because I like Coach Kleinman. I think he belonged on the list. We're talking about the list that I think he belonged on the list. But in the end, I don't know. I wanted to bring you on here. I know I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about some of this other stuff. What an amazing first experience for your son in the spring game. Obviously, he's been there for the entirety of spring practice. What has it been like for him in, when you've talked to him? How exciting is it? I mean, has he had a lot of fun with it? How hard has it been for him? This going through all because I know they put him through hell with strength and conditioning and all that other stuff too.
Yeah. Mentally it's a lot tougher.
Right.
Going from high school to college. A lot more plays. He's not at Junction City High School where he's just running around making plays, seeing the ball, hit the ball, no responsibilities. He's got a technique, he's got to get lined up correctly, and he's got reads. So it's going to take some time for him, to be 100% confident in what he's doing, in getting comfortable and having the game slow down for him. But he's enjoying it. He's soaking it in. He realized this is you only get to go play college football one time, and he's taking care of business in the classroom and just putting his head down and working hard.
That's awesome, man. And so are you but he's enjoying it though. And I heard you. I loved what you were saying to Legend about Billy Bowman and he wanting him to kind of soak up as much as he can from him. How has that gone? Has he kind of, been able to kind of take him under his wing a little bit and get some time on that?
Oh yeah. They watch film together, Billy makes all of them come in. They watch film. He's got all those young guys in there. Man, you even heard Billy say it one day after one of the spring practices. They're in there waiting for me right now, so we can watch this practice film. And Billy's Billy's trying to show them the way. You know, he's trying to show them how to be a top level safety or a top, a high level competitor in college football. He's showing them, he's laying the groundwork for them, showing them how to do it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And they, that's the beauty of some of these guys coming back. I mean, you actually have the most defensive production coming back to this OU, which I think has not been looked at enough. I mean, I think that list, sometimes it matters, sometimes I think it doesn't. And I think in certain situations it doesn't matter that much. But in this case, look, I don't know. The one reason I feel like Oklahoma is going to be, and it's a surprise for a lot of people throughout the SEC and even nationally or whatever, that, I heard even on one of the other SEC shows yesterday, a guy that I like, Jake Crane from Crane & Company, was saying that he just felt like, you're not going to be ready for it until you go through it. My thing is that if you're coming through and you're doing the things that you have to do and winning at the line of scrimmage, which is what you have to do, our defensive line of scrimmage, I don't think that there could be more than one or two D lines in the league that are going to be better than this. Right? I just don't see it.
Yeah. You got,
go ahead.
You got to win up front. You got to win up front. You got to win up front. And that's what the SEC is all about. Who's got the bigger, stronger, lines, offense or defense. You have to be able to win up front. You have to be able to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, you ain't got a shot.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that's the main thing. And obviously you get, I would say the toughest games are clearly, look, man, I think anytime you're playing Alabama, I don't care if it's at home or not, and I don't care that Nick Saban's gone. I think this is the best opportunity for Oklahoma to beat them year one in the SEC because of the fact that it is a new coach, new system, a lot of new coaches. They got a ton of talent still. You cannot just, forget about the fact that it's still freaking Alabama, okay? I don't care who's coaching them. They still got a lot of talent in the room. But you have probably a better chance there. LSU, look, I've already kind of penciled that one as one of those games that it's going to be a tough one. You're going to the swamp there. Not the swamp, but to the bayou there. You're going to be over there playing at probably a night game. If they're good at all, it'll be a night game. Last game of the year. And if they're anywhere close to like competing for the conference championship, they're going to be playing at night game. That's a tough loss. That's a tough game to go win anytime. Maybe you could. I feel like the road games at Mizzou, that's a win. Mizzou's been talking too much. They're going to beat them. Ole Miss, I feel like Ole Miss still has a lot to prove, man. I think they got a lot of talent. But again, they're going to have to win these games that you either think that they should lose or, that they need to win. You're going to have to show me that you can actually play for a conference championship because you've beaten the better teams in the conference. They got drummed by Georgia last year. Drummed. I don't care that they're playing them at home. I think they're going to get drugged. I think Oklahoma probably beats them too. I think the toughest games are what I said, Alabama, definitely LSU. I think the Auburn road game is probably going to be tough. Unless you're New Mexico State, I think it's a hard place for most of these good programs to go play. It is what it is. But I think there's, 9-3 is absolutely doable. And I see 10-2. I heard Jake Crane saying, it's an 8-4 at best season. And I'm like, I don't buy that. It just doesn't make sense to me. And, there's a lot of people thinking they're going to be mediocre. I think it's funny. But, it's crazy. SEC experts getting their opinion based off of our spring game. And what are you basing that off of? The spring game, they look good in a lot of places. Yeah. You didn't see a lot of ones against the ones anyway. So, I mean, just like anybody else, they didn't show anything. So what are we judging it on? If we're going to judge anybody's spring game, I would probably judge Ole Miss on not having one. They were having hot dog eating contest with Joey Chestnut. What are we doing? I mean? I don't get it.
Yeah. There's a lot of coaches though that are in that frame of like, why risk playing a spring game and let's get better. Let's have one more practice. Like that's the thing in college football. And I get it. I understand it, but I think you got to do it for the fans and the university.
Yeah. And Neil's right. I mean, there's a doubt from starting a redshirt freshman at quarterback. Okay. The thing is that, and then you always, they back that up with, okay, you got a new defensive coordinator. Kind of, right? Kind of. And a new offensive coordinator. Yeah. Yes, but the guy's been in the system, and I agreed with you. You know what? You're right. Matt Wells is a super replacement, I believe, at K-State as well, Neil. I think that's a great job that they did getting Matt. He was really close to being the OC at Oklahoma. So it was either going to be him or Luttrell. So as far as co-OCs or whatever. But look, the offense is only going to change in the play calling probably. Overall, there's a lot of similarities to what they were doing. He's been in the building. He's been coaching quarterbacks already there, or, at least helping with it as well. Seth Luttrell is he's a more proven offensive play caller than Lebby was when he got here. And they're already familiar with him. That's not a huge deal. I think that if you keep Jackson upright, I mean, yeah, could he have some ups and downs? Sure. If they're calling the right plays, I think that they're going to end up doing some really good things.
He's going to ball. He's going to ball. Like I just don't see any world that you're living in that the offensive coaches are not going to put him in the best situation for him to be successful. And
when
I just
how is when the next time, look, it's almost like what I've been saying about the coaches. And yeah, I get you there, Coach I. Coach I's our boy out at Georgia. He's the Georgia guy. We do a lot of work with him. They do one-on-one at OU every day too. They just didn't necessarily show a ton of it there in the spring game. They just didn't show a ton of it in the spring game, but there was a little bit. In the end, I think that, the offense, a bad offensive season for Oklahoma is top 30, top 25, instead of top 10. I just feel like they've got so much talent at the receiver position. There was a bunch of guys that didn't play at receiver last week. There's a bunch of guys that didn't play on the defense too. You didn't need to see a bunch of Danny Stutzman or Billy Bowman. You know what they are. We wanted to see guys like your son and Reggie Powers and the younger linebackers and stuff. I think that was important. To me, I feel good about where they are on the defensive side of the ball. I think that they're probably a top 20, top 30 at the very worst, and I think they could be as high as top 10 on defense. That's going to carry this program to the heights they want to get in. If they can get into the top 20, top 10, they're going to surprise a lot of people. And then you don't have to be top 5 or 10 on offense. You can be, I guess, pedestrian by Oklahoma standards would be like 20th,
Yeah.
And you'd be in great
strong
shape.
Defense and run the ball.
Run the hell out of the ball.
Defense and run the ball are the best friends for a young quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I look at that stable of running backs they got in there. Caleb Hicks looked amazing the other day. We didn't see anything out of Javonte. It sounds like he's hanging around. We know that he can be a power back. I'm glad that he's gonna, look, depth is a good thing. I think when Taylor Tatum gets here, he's one of those guys that he's probably gonna make an impact at some point during the season. Obviously, Gavin Sawchuk, if he stays healthy, he looks like the dude. There's a bunch of guys that look like the dude in there. Xavier Robinson, good grief. When him and Kobe McKenzie met in the backfield in that hole there, it looked like two freight trains hit each other. That was awesome.
There was a rumble in the stadium. There was a rumble in the stadium on that play. I felt it.
I could feel it watching it on television. I could feel it. I was going, oh,
yeah.
You could just hear it pop, man. It was nice, really good stuff. Exciting, man. It was exciting stuff, man, and definitely glad to have you on, man. Though I'm glad you came in, Mike, and talked to us a little bit. Obviously, we got connection there with New Mexico State. You played with a guy that I played with in high school, Ty Hotling. You said he was a senior, right? Whenever you got there.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man. I'd love to have you on more and more, and we're excited for having your son in Norman and as a part of this program. But thanks a lot for joining us and for kind of stirring up this thing for me this morning. I wanted to get in and kind of talk some trash about this ridiculous list that I think it is, and get a perspective from somebody who's gone through the recruiting process and made the choice to come here. So glad to have you on, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Let me know.
All right, bud. Well, have a good one. We will talk to you again soon.
All right, big dog. Thanks.
Later. All right. Mike Boganowski Sr., father of Michael Boganowski, freshman, big hitter at Oklahoma. Enjoyed watching him out there in that spring game. Good having him on. Look, did I miss a super chat? Oh, my bad, folks. Neilio, dang it. Did I miss? Oh, wait. Which one? There it is again. Oh. Hey, real quick question. We have another super chat from Neil. Who wins this fall? Manhattan High or JC?
Well, Manhattan's been giving it to us the last couple of years. You know, I think the last time we beat Manhattan was Mike's freshman year. So, you know, right now you got to say probably Manhattan, but you know, we're reloading. You know, we got a couple young cats. We got a young quarterback and a couple receivers, and you know, I got my Michael's younger brother, so hopefully he can get on there and get in on that varsity time and make a difference.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Hey, we're excited to see him play, and we'll be getting updates on that for sure. But good luck to him this fall.
All right, thanks, brother.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Yep. All right. Thank you for that. Sorry about that, man. And I'm glad I caught him before he jumped out of there. I'm glad I did that. All right. Hey, welcome in there. You doing good things on the recruiting show. Correct. Thanks a lot, Coach I, for coming in. Welcome in Bishop Frank, Rhymy Lemon, Stephen G, Boomer 129, Jason with the save, man. And Rhymy Lemon, that was a funny question you had, but come on, you know the answer to that. If I said anybody who gives the answer of best beard and it isn't Legends between the three that you gave, come on. It'd just be wrong. It would just be a wrong answer. Yeah, I think these chants are going to be coming quick, right? What do you guys think about that? That was some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. Definitely. Let me just finish off what I was saying about Coach Venables and everything at this. I think that these things are probably a good thing for the program as a whole. As we've seen on like the Red Dirt Media, when you've got those guys that are there from Oklahoma that are talking about what they see and how the disrespect for OU is real, they hear it, they see it. That's a good thing. I don't think Venables gives a shit. Nor should he, probably. That's for us to worry about. I agree with this. But I do think that I think that these guys are going to definitely surprise a lot of people. You know, obviously the schedule is rough. Number 2 schedule in the country behind just Florida's. I would say Georgia's is probably right there with it, not too far behind. But I really think that we're going to see a different team. We saw, what looked like a good defense for the first part of the season. When they had those injuries to Danny Stutzman and then Gentry Williams, I think it affected them quite a bit for the second half. We know they gave up 35.7 coming down the stretch. This was coming from the number 1 red zone defense up until that point in the country. So they hadn't been giving up a ton, right? After, the Texas game and beyond is when that really kind of happened. But so we'll see kind of what happens on that. But let's see. What did Bobby say? The use of the tight end will be far better under Latrell than jet sweep Levy. Yeah, man. The old jet sweep. It's not that the jet sweep's such a terrible thing as long as there's a vertical element with it. I'm going to go with the Teddy Lehman talk. That's what he was saying, and I agreed with him. If you don't have at least the threat of it, then they know what's coming. You can see it. and you can be prepared for it every time you send a freaking receiver in motion, for God's sakes. I think that the fact that it seemed like you saw a little less, zone read plays, a lot of stuff like that. I think that that's going to help a little. You saw some tempo, but you saw them slow it down a little as well. We're going to see a lot of the same stuff, but I think that his play calling, to me, the thing that I've said this a bunch about Jeff Lebby is I felt like there was times that he just didn't really know what it was that he was trying to do, right? I don't think he had a goal sometimes, or if he did, he forgot about it because it was just there didn't seem a lot of rhyme or reason for some of the play calls. Do I think he knows what he's doing with an offense? Of course, and they ranked in the top 5. Sometimes that's, you need some context with some of those stats when it comes down to you start looking at games you lost. The Kansas game was called absolutely terribly. And I would say that Bedlam, while there was some awful play calling or some awful officiating, there was some awful play calling on his part as well. I think you had an opportunity to go up big. You do a direct snap to a Javonte Barnes who told us he was hurt and shouldn't have been in at all. And he hadn't been in a month. And first snap he gets is a direct snap to him after you've just marched down the field, had a long play by Gavin Sawchuk. I thought it was an awful play. Just a stupid play call. I didn't get it. And I get it. Sometimes they're going to do that. You're going to have some bad play calls by anybody. But that just seemed weird to me. And it was it wasn't even in the realm of what they were doing and being successful with. You didn't make them stop you at the zone read, or that outside stretch, that stretch zone. They were not touching Gavin Sawchuk on the stretch run there, the zone stretch. Killing me. Anyway, let's see. Very, very fortunate that their first few seasons in the SEC had the traditional Eastern powers on downward slopes. Absolutely. Save for the Florida Monster, but then the Florida Monster ran away. They were gone. So that was when he left. Let's see what we got. Stephen, the addition of all offensive linemen, Hickman was important with y'all. Yes, I think so too. Even though we saw Joshua Bates, redshirt freshman, step up and do pretty good in the spring game, you didn't see a ton of like blitzes and some. How vanilla it gets. But I agree with you. I think Hickman was a big deal. You really need it. You really needed it. Yeah. Well, it's the jet sweep is one of those. If you're running it once a game, there's no surprise to it though either. You know what I mean? So it's more like a kind of that tricky play, and you don't run trick plays every game, right? Yeah. I don't think that the tight end recruiting's been bad. I think it's fine right now. I think it's, I think that coming in, they're definitely the last year they missed on some. The last couple actually, and then we're relying on portal stuff. Look, I think Braden was very good. He wasn't obviously recruited by this group of guys, but I think Devon Mitchell is as good as it gets. I think Bauer Sharp's going to be really good. He's not a blocking tight end as we saw, not in the SEC. He's a converted quarterback. It will be a while till you teach him to block. He's more of a pass catcher guy, and I think right now that's probably what you're seeing out of Devon Mitchell. Good news is when you got the guy coming in from Baylor, he's had some experience with Seth Luttrell and playing, at a power conference school. I think he's going to come in, be strong there as well. I don't think that they're definitely out of things for somebody in the future there either. Really? They were watching your house during recruiting, Big Block? Dang. That's wild. Let's see. Micah, come on, man. Don't be telling on me. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Dude, he knocked the shit out of him. I was like, oh, I think he just killed Bauer Sharp. No, man. Hey, yeah. And he was an absolute great guy to have on the show. Loved it. I enjoyed seeing him on the show with Legend the other day too. The crazy thing was that, when I got on Twitter this morning, as I got in here, I was going through some stuff. I was going to go ahead and jump on, but I started looking and he had that list up there and I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. And to look at that list one more time, let me pull that back up there real quick. Cause guys, it's unbelievable. I mean, again, I like Lane Kiffin as a coach. I like Dan Lanning as a coach. They haven't proven any more than what 30, 40 years of coaching, 30 years worth of coaching is for Brent Venables, and successful coaching. He's one of the top defensive minds in the country, period. There's no way that, and do you think that there's maybe some little bit of a connection to Venables not being there as to why they're not winning anymore? Not on the level that they were? I mean, I know everybody likes to say it's because they don't have receivers and their quarterback play hasn't been good and all that other stuff. It all coincides with Brent Venables leaving too. It all coincides with the same thing. Right? Jamie Chadwell, what has this guy done? You know what I mean? I'm struggling here. He did look, Liberty. Who do they play against all year? Nobody. Let's go to Jeff Brom's records since 2017. He went 8-5, 12-2, 10-3 when he was at Western Kentucky. That got him the Purdue job. He went 7-6, 6-7, 4-8, 2-4, 9-4, 8-5, and then last year at Louisville Eagles 10-4. Okay, the ACC's trash. Sorry, it is. But and I like Jeff Brom. I like him. I don't think he's a better coach than Brent Venables. He doesn't recruit better than Brent Venables. They were trying to hire him at Oklahoma. I'm not buying it. If you go look at, let's see. Now let's go to drink here. Ugh. Eli Drinkwitz. What a joke. Appalachian State, he goes 12-1 is his only season there. Okay. He's been 5-5, 6-7, 6-7, 11-2. And now all of a sudden he's a top 25 guy. Okay. Top 25 clown, maybe. Let's look at, let's see who these other guys were on this list. Jamie Chadwell. Okay. His overall is head coaching career. He was at Coastal Carolina. He did pretty good there. 11-2, a couple 11-1 seasons, a 9-3 season, 13-1 at Liberty. Charleston Southern. I mean, okay. But so that experience is better for him than Brent Venables being a DC on multiple national championship teams, 3 of them, playing for 3 more? Or no, playing for 3 more just at Clemson. They played for another 2 or 3 at Oklahoma with him. This championship experience and the power at the power level, Power 5 conference. I mean, it's debatable. And I'm not even saying that I think all these guys are terrible. I don't. Matt Rule, I like. Jonathan Smith. Let's look at Jonathan Smith's record. He hasn't even been a head coach that long. So at Oregon State, Oh, he played there. So, okay, his overall record is 34-35. He's got a losing record. I know it's at Oregon State, but his best season was 10-3. He did that once. He's been a coach for 6 years, head coach for 6 years, 34-35 overall. What are we talking about? Who, Drink? He was going to get fired last season for sure. Gundy at 14. Yeah, what a freaking joke. What a joke. Mediocre Mike. They talk about, and I love Sam. Big Sam that played for him, of course. But they talk about this record. And then if you guys that remember the show when I went on the Locked On Oklahoma State and body bagged that clown that was on there with them. He had in his record against 10-win teams since he's got there 13-33. 14-33 since he beat Oklahoma last year. Record non-conference wins over a Power 5 opponents. He had 3 of them. 3. They were against 8-5 and 7, or 7-5, 8-4 2 7-5 teams and an 8-4. I think Georgia was 7-5. I mean, we're talking about winning teams in the Power, and or winning teams that were non-conference Power 5, and it was 3 total. 3. When you go and then you go and play teams, I mean, look, they almost lost to Central Arkansas last year. They lose to South Alabama. Did South Alabama even have a winning record? I don't think they did this past year. They were not as good as they were the year before. Come on, guys. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Look, in the end, I think that the problem is that the problem that I have is just this idea. Yeah, he's a man. He's a man that likes to yell at women in the press conferences. Yeah, that whole thing about that it was supposedly about a kid that she said something ugly about in her column. She did not. She did not. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans are not fans of her. I'm telling you now, he was screaming at a woman. Nobody brought that up nationally. He was screaming at a female reporter, "I'm a man. I'm 40." He was pissed off because she was questioning their play calling, their game plan that week. Pissed him right off. The dude never wins when it matters. Never. If it matters, he's gagging. Period. Without the assist from the Big 12, they don't win the last Bedlam either. And that will be the last Bedlam as long as he's there. Believe that. Chances are they at least go that 10 to 12 years before this thing kicks back off again in Bedlam. And I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous on both sides. Oklahoma wanted to play the game. They chose not to. If Oklahoma wanted to play, they should have gone to the SEC. That's the only thing he'll say. Just blame it on OU. He did that for like the last 3 years. Jenny Carlson. That was it. Yes. She wasn't afraid of the mullet, but she definitely, that was not over something that she wrote about a player. Had nothing to do with that player that he was talking about. Nothing. I have zero respect for him. I didn't really like him at that point, but I really didn't agree with it then. And he got praised for it. And he's still he's famous for it. It's unbelievable. No, she wasn't. She was not putting the blame on the slump on that kid. No, she wasn't. She put it on him and their game plan and what they were trying to do there. She was not putting it on that kid. She was not, man. I think that was absolutely. I agree that we should be playing Nebraska too. Oklahoma should definitely be playing Nebraska too. But I think that the Oklahoma State rivalry should happen every year. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard that story. Oh, that's funny. That's good stuff. Well, how dare you wear such a thing in Stillwater? Sorry. No. That go back to that. Go back to that deal and reread it if you want. Yeah, I mean, you can find it. What he was he found his little thing to make it. He certainly made it like it was about that player. The player wasn't playing good either. And look, I got to tell you, and particularly now, but they're college kids. They can be criticized. They can be criticized. That's one of the other things I did want to talk about, guys, as far as criticizing. First off, I wanted to reiterate that the video that I did on Monday morning when I came in here and did the live, and we were talking about what was said from Dusty Dvorak about Jaren Kanak and not being able to put him on the field if you're Oklahoma. And yes, we've all kind of been on them. A lot of us podcasters have. I know some of them have been less pointed about it than probably on my show or like K. Chris's show. I just want to make this clear that I don't have a problem with Jaren Kanak. I was talking about the fact that with the way they're recruiting, we're talking about the recruiting that these guys are doing, that they are killing it on the trail, particularly on defense. When he got there, he had a longer leash because of the fact not only was he a freshman, but they just didn't have a ton of talent. We've talked about what was left in the building, and it wasn't much. That ridiculous narrative that, an 11-2 team got left there for him to go 6-7 with. It's stupid. It's a stupid thing to say, but in any event, that was the narrative. It was not true. The fact is he's had room to grow. Now, the truth of the matter is that room is very little. His window, if it's left at all, is this big because of the fact that, guys, bottom line is there's a lot more talent in the room now. A ton more. And if you've made mistake after mistake and they can't trust you anymore and you may not get on the field, that's what I was talking about. I'm not saying that I want him to go anywhere. I like Jaren Kanak as much as the next guy. First off, you watch him and when him and Danny do that podcast together, they're hilarious. It's a blast watching them. They did that. They went to that medieval fair or whatever and did the sword thing. I know you guys saw that on Twitter. Hilarious. Love it. I think he's also an unbelievable athlete. But the truth is the truth, guys. Former players, you heard, not only did Dusty Dvorak said it, we've heard it out of Damian Mackey. We've heard it out of, we're talking publicly being said. We've heard it out of Teddy Lehman even talking about it. And this guy's a linebacker, and he has said, hey, he's not cutting it. He's not getting it. Look, I don't think that, do I think that it was a hot mic? And, I haven't heard Dusty tripping over himself to apologize about saying it. He hasn't, that I know of, has he? Tyler, there's a lot of ways to look at that. You can look at it however you want to. Yes, he had 5 tackles. He missed some assignments too, and some tackles, if it's 10, 12 yards down the field and you weren't in the place that you were supposed to be in the first place, like that guy said in the comment section the other day, he wasn't wrong. I went back and looked at what he was talking about just like you did. Guys, bottom line is I'm not even saying that that he'll never get it. I'm saying that he's running out of room in that room. And it sounds like from everything that you hear is that he's running out of trust from this staff. And that's the problem. And then you've got the issue of the scholarship count and stuff like that. I don't know what's going to happen, and it's not up to me to decide. I don't want anybody to think that I hate the kid or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that it's obviously for us to come in here and talk about what we see out there on the field, what we hear, not just from, quote, inside or outside of the freaking Switzer Center, but from the guys that are the closest to the program from outside of it. Guys like Teddy Lehman, guys like Dusty Dvorak. I'm supposed to have Barry from the Barry Max Show is going to be on the show with me on Friday, which is tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to do it probably probably around 6 or 7, I think. But we're going to probably talk about some of that. Look, you're going to see things, critical things being said about him, and it sucks that goes on. But the truth is that whether he gets in or not, it's not any of us to decide. None of us get to decide that. Mm-hmm. Right. But again, in time is the right way to put it there, Neilio, because when you are recruiting on the level that Brent Venables and this staff is recruiting on, you don't have a lot of time. You don't. They needed him to play last year because they didn't have as much depth there, and they had younger kids that were learning it too. His second year, they depended on him more. When they started having to depend on him at the end of last season, that was they gave up 35.7 a game for the last 5. That's all I can say. And again, I don't even want to say that, like I said, I'm not telling you that I have a problem with this kid. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a hell of an athlete. But I think he's running out of room. And I think it's clear that he's running out of room and favor with the coaching staff. I think that's clear. I'm not telling you I'm an insider, Tyler, or any of that other kind of stuff that you were trying to act like that was what I was saying the other day. That's not what I'm saying. You can read the tea leaves and figure that Dusty probably doesn't say that unless he's either hearing it somewhere in the Switzer Center or someone that's close to the program, like Teddy Lehman. I said it had to have been coming from out of the Switzer Center. Correct. I said that. I said it had to have been coming from out of there. That's an opinion. That wasn't me saying that I talked to somebody directly on the coaching staff. I didn't say that. That's not what I said. I'm not going to argue with you about that. Bottom line is, I'm not even trying to kill this kid, and you're freaking losing your mind still days after. Lewis Carter is a second-year player. He's not in his third year in the deal, and he also made a lot of really good plays. You see, my question for you, Tyler, and I'm not going to continue having this conversation with you, but my question for you is, why are you have no problem saying anything about any of these other? You've talked about Lewis Carter now. You were talking about Samuel Omosigo the other day, but you won't say anything bad about Jaron Kanak. He never makes any bad plays now. All of a sudden, why? You're the only one out of all these people that are talking like that. That makes no sense. I'm telling you that I'm trying to clarify what I said the other day. And you're starting to talk a bunch of crap. Who was it? The other guy, the linebacker that you were dogging and saying that they were missing assignments and this and that. Who? There was another one for sure. You were. It was on Jay's show. All right. No one is immune from criticism. They weren't before NIL, but you're right. They're not. And look, they're also not immune from getting cut with the NIL too. Don't think for 1 second that a lot of these transfer portal moves aren't initiated by the coaching staff. They are. That's it. And look, he's had more room to grow, and he doesn't seem to be getting it at all. You can even see it in his body language. I don't understand what the big thing is there. I mean, look, and again, I think that there's a lot of places that you might be able to find for him in this system. Maybe even stay in the linebacker room, just not at middle linebacker, maybe. You know, I think there's other places. What's up, chicken? Cundy and Riley have a lot in common. It doesn't take an insider. Thank you. That's exactly why. I mean, look, man, I'm not even saying that I am one. I'm not even saying that I am. That's not what I was saying. So I did want to just clarify that. I don't have a problem with the kid. I hope that he figures it out, because I think that talent-wise, yeah, he's there. But he's not the only one that has that kind of talent, by the way. Lewis Carter, he's got that kind of talent. He's got speed. Samuel Omosigo, size and speed, talent. They all have made some mistakes at some point. They all have. Kobe McKenzie, though, a guy that you would have figured last year was behind him, he's not behind him anymore at all. Kobe McKenzie made probably the biggest move in that linebacker room to me. Kip looked good the other day too, again, and he has looked good. Bottom line is, if you're starting that far behind, what is it going to get like later? And if they can't trust you when they put you in, they're not going to put you in. This is the SEC. They're not. You don't have time for it. You don't have time for it. And we all know what we expect out of this program. And so does Brent Venables. You know, that's all there is to it. What's up there, legend? Mm-hmm. Look. Yeah. Yeah, and I want him to succeed too. The thing, and you know, when you start bringing up playing like tight end, H-back, something like that, I don't think it's as far-fetched as some people think. Well, he's not going to change positions. Why not? We've seen it before. We've seen a quarterback that was never going to be the starting quarterback that has been in the league longer than either of the guys he backed up as a tight end. I mean, we've seen it. It happens. And the thing that I remember the most about Jaren Kanic's film and what I liked, it wasn't what he was doing on defense. It's that nobody could stop him on offense carrying the football. Love to see some of that out of him. Get the ball in his hand. He's a weapon. Look, I don't know that that's in the cards. It may not be. Okay. If you can run a 4-3, you can play running back. You can play tight end for sure. He's big enough. I think it's something that it's a possibility. I also think that you could move him to more of a will linebacker position. They're messing around with some different sets, not just running they're running. Hey, we saw a lot of 4-3 the other day, where you'll end up having a middle and outside linebackers. You could see a lot of different things happen. He never played linebacker in high school. That's the hard thing about it, is when you don't play until you get to college, and then you come to college and you play in the most sophisticated defense probably in the country. It's tough. Isaiah Simmons, year 2, midway through the year, he started getting it. Year 3, he was the man. But he started getting it year 2. Jaren didn't. And it still doesn't look like to most people that he's getting it yet. That's all. But he's a stud. He is a stud. Did General Booty surprise? I don't know how surprised I was. I think that General Booty never really got. I think that he got stuck behind. I mean, the one time you would want him to play was obviously the Red River game. We would have known something about him then, because of that. But he had an eye injury or something. Why he scratched and it was Bevel instead. And then he wasn't. Once Jackson got there, he wasn't going to play. And now he's still not. I mean, he's definitely not going to. Michael Hawkins is the real deal, man. He looks like the kind of guy that Jackson wants to lose some time. He could lose his job. And I'm not saying that Jackson doesn't look great. He does. But the kid is just unbelievably talented. Again, these are good problems to have, folks. If you're going into the SEC, these are good problems to have, that you got talent everywhere. And the biggest point that I want to make is this: the job of Coach Venables and this staff is to do what? Something that I saw on, shout out to Nino from Nino's Corner. He was saying the other day, talking about Texas, that their job is to, and they're saying it, their job is to go in there and recruit someone that's better than you. And talking to the guy that's currently on the team. My job is to go recruit somebody to beat you out of your job. They're doing that. And you have to do that. You want to know why Georgia's so good? Because that's what they're recruiting every year. They don't give a crap how many guys they have in there. They're not ever going to set and say we're good right where we are. They're not. The best guy wins. The best guy plays. Period. That's how it is. And it has to be that way if you want to win national championships. Yeah, I bet you. Rob, I tend to doubt that that's true, but what makes you tell us what makes you think that? Yeah, no doubt. Oh, come on, man. It's an easy win, man. That's an easy win for old legend. He's got a real deal beard. Yep. You got to play the best. You got to play the best guys, man. That's all there is to it. Got to play the best guys. And that's it. I mean, if they're not recruiting guys to beat everybody out of their spot, then you might be good one year. And this is where I think, Rob, you're not going to like hearing this, but this is Mizzou. They're good right now. Maybe. Kind of. Not. I don't buy it. They win 10 games. I'll be super surprised. Let's talk center. Yeah, listen, that's a big pickup, man. Big pickup for Oklahoma, obviously getting, that's super important, I think, for the Sooners in that deal all the way around. When you start thinking about offensive line, that's the question there. It's not about, and I've said this, there's a difference in what you're hearing all around the country and it being a new offensive line and being a bad offensive line. I don't for a second believe that they're going to have a bad offensive line. They're not. They're new. They got to gel together. And one of the things that I think a lot of people in the around the program, fans especially, they hated that it takes longer for them to gel, and usually fourth or fifth game. I heard Stoya talking about that the other day. But yeah, it looks like Hickman's going to be that guy. I think Joshua Bates acquitted himself of what he looked like early in the spring. It's good to hear that they did very well, developing what they had during those 15 practices. And it's 15 practices. I mean, they still got the summer ahead. And then the fall camp. I think that you're going to see some big strides made. They're recruiting good guys. You're going to get Eddie Perry-Louise is going to be here. You already you've got some good freshmen. You've got some good redshirt freshmen. Yeah, they've got to prove themselves, but I think that they did a good job. Jacob Sexton looks like he can play anywhere. Yeah, okay. Surprised. There's not a whole lot of you folks out there. If that's the case, there's not a whole lot of you Mizzou fans out there. But you can stay. I think there is adjustments. I think that's why everybody's assuming that Oklahoma's not. There's a large segment of people around the country that are not assuming Oklahoma's going to be very good. SEC Mike and those guys being, hey, they have Oklahoma finishing 10th behind Florida. Behind Florida. They did their power rankings after the spring games, and they got Oklahoma finishing behind Florida. What? Okay. You guys know what I think about that. Where the hell did it go? There it is. Oops.
That is blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
Ton of talent in the secondary. For them to finish behind freaking Florida at number 10. And so it was behind Florida and behind who the hell else was it that he had on that stupid list? I freaked out whenever I want to say it was like South Carolina, maybe. No, it wasn't South Carolina. Ooh, now I want to go back and look at it. I'm telling you, it was a terrible list, though. To have them behind Florida, I mean, come on. He had Florida at like 14th. Kentucky, that was it. Yes. Bob Stoops just rolled over. The zone coverage. Maybe. Look, I think that you can not go zone sometimes a little more. If I had any preferences, it would be to let these guys play man sometimes, especially against the teams that you know. I mean, there's some teams that you probably can't, but I think there's some teams that you can play man against and just roll them up. Dude, with this secondary is the real deal, man. It's the real deal. I could too, but that's because Mizzou doesn't have look, Rob, the one thing, and I'm not just trying to be an ass here, but hey, man, they don't have the talent that Oklahoma has. They not only do they not now, they never do. They're recruiting good. They've got a good NIL collective. I understand that they're doing what they can, but getting Williams-Nwaneri was one thing. Oklahoma got 5 blue chip guys on the D line. 5. Including David Stone, who it's either Williams or David Stone that in all the rankings were 1 and 2. So some of the rankings, they had Nwaneri number 1. Some of them had Stone. In any event, that's the thing. They got 5 of them on the D line, and they were already, and look, you lost a bunch of your defense that I think really carried Mizzou more than the offense did. I love Luther Burden. I think he's great. I'm a fan of Theo Weiss. I think that it was a good move for Theo. He got in Levy's doghouse. He probably needed, as a grad transfer, that was a good move for him. And, new start, new place. He had some injuries while he was at OU that probably kept him from meeting his ceiling. He was a 5-star guy coming in. So I'm glad to see that he's done well. But what do you have outside of that? I don't know. Cook is okay. I get it that, you don't know about redshirt freshman's first-year starting quarterback. He looked pretty good. The other day, and they've got loads and loads of talent in the receiver room. Loads of talent. Deion Burks is a problem, folks. A problem. Nick didn't even play the other day. So. No, I agree. I agree for that. You ain't wrong, True. better as an underdog. But again, when you saw the list, though, it just, to me, the list, and I'll show it one more time. Let me just put it up there this last time, and then we'll call it a day on that. But, you know, good grief. Dave Doran, Jamie Chadwell. I mean, Braum. I like Braum a lot. I think Jamie Chadwell might be a pretty good. Jonathan Smith hasn't done, he's got a losing record as a head coach. Drink one good year since he got to Mizzou. Lane Kiffin, next time he wins a big game, first time. Dan Lanning, next time he wins a big game, first time. He couldn't get the job at Oklahoma. He wanted it more than he wanted the Oregon job. They gave it to Venables. I think it's a trash list, man. And it's just more of what we're seeing all around the country. And I think it's crazy stuff. Just think it's crazy. All right. I think that's about where we were. The Horns are struggling a little bit there too with the recruiting. And that's the other part of it that freaks me out, is that one year that Texas does well, they don't beat Oklahoma. They get to the playoff. They get beat by a team that shouldn't have beat them. They're definitely worse on defense than they were a year ago. And they don't have Bo Davis still there. I think they're in deep shit with their secondary. They've got all new guys playing receiver. I think that Isaiah Bond is a good receiver. Do I think he's as good as Xavier Worthy? No. Do I think any of them are as good as A.D. Mitchell? No. I do not. Do I think that they've got those other transfer guys from what? The guy from Oregon State, Golden and Bolden, the Houston guy. I don't remember which one's Houston, which one's Oregon State. They're both pretty good. Neither one of them put up the kind of numbers that you were getting out of Jatavion Sanders, Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Whittington. You didn't get that. And all of a sudden, in 1 year, they're going to come in there and replace all of that production. I like Nyblack as well. I don't like him as much as I like Jatavion Sanders. I like their running back room, not as much without Jonathan Brooks. And now Savion Red is in the portal. And he was important to that room at the last part of the season. They're all good. Oh, here comes Rand to tell us all about how Texas is in great shape. They're not all good. They're not all good. You're not replacing all that. And you cannot tell me that they're going to be better than they were last year. More talented than they were last year, and they skated by some games. And hey, that's assuming Quinn's healthy. Or are you one of the people, Rand, that believe that it should be Arch Manning, the starter? You don't think why do you not think it's going to be a problem? Why do you not think it's going to be a problem? All of a sudden, Quinn is just going to mesh with these guys automatically, get the same production, and be able to win in the SEC, not the Big 12. And even though you do have a crap schedule, in comparison to a lot of schedules in the SEC, it's JV. But there are some landmines out there. Hey, man, thanks a lot. Good to see you, Ryman Lehman. Appreciate you. The one thing, okay, you're saying Quinn, good. At least you're that guy. But there's another question. Is he going to stay healthy all year? Probably not. The offensive line is going to be good. Of course, it was good last year. And with those guys that are all first and second round guys, you didn't win it all. You had everything open in front of you to go win the national championship game. And you couldn't get by Washington for the second straight year. Now Sweat and Murphy are gone. Your best linebacker's gone. That secondary looks bad. And you're expecting Quinn is just they're going to reproduce the same stats with all new guys catching passes. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Okay. I don't know where that is. Maybe I have it. Ah, there it is. The old training wheel schedule. So, yeah, but okay. And then the D line, where you were the strongest at, was there. I know you got some talent, but you lost some guy. I mean, the kid not coming from UCLA that was coming. I think that hurts. Love Colin Simmons. He's young though. You're going to expect him to reproduce what you were getting. I think they're going to struggle there. Defensively, they're definitely not in as good a shape. That's clear. They're definitely in the hunt for guys that they really have to have. They're in way worse shape defensive line wise than what Oklahoma is. Way worse shape. I think that you're saying that, but defensive line coach has gone to LSU. You know, they're not getting the guys that you think you're going to get. We're going to find out what happens with this Williams kid, Dominic Williams. I haven't seen anything on that so far today, but I'm not exaggerating. It's not even an exaggeration. That was all factual. Every bit of it. You're going to tell me that Bo Davis not being there isn't hurting. And Murphy and Sweat, 2 All-Americans not being there is not going to hurt you. And Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell and Jatavion Sanders and Whittington not being there, not going to hurt. Brooks, not going to hurt. A lot of things have to happen for you guys to do what people are acting like is just a given that they're going to do. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. Okay. Fellas, we'll see what happens with all that. We're going to be on the show tonight on SEC, No Cap SEC tonight. It is at 9:30 Eastern time right here on Hall of Fame College Football. That's at CFB-pod. You can also find us on the Sooner Magic Podcast page as well. That's HOF-Sooners on YouTube as well. You can find us on Instagram as well or Twitter. You know where you can find us all the way through it. Look, guys, bottom line is the reason I really wanted to come on, I was really happy to get Mr. Boganowski on with me this morning. I enjoyed his interview with the legend the other day. It was great. And when he put that out there about that top 25 list of coaches and some of the guys that are on there and some of the guys where they're ranked is insane. And you don't even have Venables on it. The guy's you don't get the Oklahoma job unless you're that guy. He turned around a program that was tried to be set fire to by Lincoln on his way out. They went 6-7 the first year with 45% of that program gone, 2 5-star quarterbacks gone, a lot of their best talent on defense that wasn't that good gone, and he patched it together, went 6-6, lost the ball game but in a great game to a team that went undefeated the next year with a lot of the same team. Then they go 10-2, lose the bowl game with, brand new quarterback. But I'm telling you, this is an ascension that you're seeing here. They're recruiting out of their mind, better than Lincoln ever dreamed of, particularly on defense. It's not in the same stratosphere, and they can coach them up. I like where Oklahoma is sitting, even though their schedule is definitely a lot harder. Again, we know that the Texas schedule, it's got training wheels. But I think that there's some landmines for them too. Texas A&M at the end of the year, tough game. They're nasty on the defensive line. If their quarterback looks good to me too. If Connor Wegman stays healthy, they could be a problem. I think that that's another one of the teams that'll beat Mizzou as well. Mizzou's got to go there, you know. And I mean, look, if that quarterback at Arkansas looks as good as he has been looking in the spring, and with Bobby Petrino, it could be big. It could be huge. We're going to find out. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming in. I appreciate it a lot. You know, happy to have everybody in here. And look, guys, again, just wanted to kind of clarify some of that stuff about Canic the other day and talk a little bit about this stuff with BV. You know, it was just thanks for coming on, Mr. Boganowski. We appreciate you, Mike. And look, we'll see you guys. Yeah, we'll be on this evening on No Cap SEC. We'll get into some more stuff then. But thanks a lot for coming in. We'll see you all. Hey, before you get out of here, check out our Mint Mobile commercial. You should really be checking out Mint Mobile, folks. Unbelievable savings. Number one, you know, the biggest 5G network in the country, $15 a month. Check that out on the way out. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, before we jump into the topics for the day, I just wanted to take a moment to shout out our partners at Hall of Fame College Football, Mint Mobile. Look, I am super grateful for this partnership with Mint Mobile because let's be serious. If you're anything like me, you're overpaying for your wireless service. But with Mint Mobile, you can get everything you get with big wireless, aside from the big price tag, for as low as $15 a month. Speed, coverage, data, 5G access, mobile hotspot. It's all available right there on Mint Mobile and for way less than you're used to paying at your big wireless carrier. How do they do it? Well, they basically just reimagined the entire wireless experience. No more dealing with a pushy salesperson. Everything you do with Mint Mobile is right through its app on the phone that you already own. You can literally go and purchase your service and activate it right now. TryMintMobile.com/HOF is our partner link. And if you sign up today, you can get 3 months of unlimited talk, text, and data for just $45. That's $15 a month for the best package they have for 3 months. If you could get it with big wireless, you can get it right here on Mint Mobile. Check it out and thank me later.